What's up, guys? I'm gonna make my first sand carving video. And the way I got in sand carving is like a lot of people. I was sublimating, I was doing other stuff. I saw people using etching creams, and I fell in the YouTube hole on etching creams, and then I bought a Posh air eraser, and then it progressed from there. I can tell you that a Posh air eraser is not really the way to go. I use sandblast. I used a lot of sandblasting in the beginning when I first learned how to do it. I was making a ton of memorial stones. We was making flasks. I was cutting glasses. I was doing a lot. I don't do as much sand carving anymore because we invested in a laser. It's just a lot more time efficient to use a laser. But if you don't have $10,000, $20,000 to buy a good laser, sand carving is an excellent way to be able to put images on hard surfaces. And you can do it pretty inexpensively. You can get in the sand carving business pretty cheap. The definition of sand carving, or what sand carving is basically applying a stencil to a hard object. So it's mostly glass or metal. You're not really doing wood. Glass, metal, stone would be the most of the things. Now you can use vinyl. A lot of people use Oracle 651 cut vinyl. And the idea is that you have a soft surface and a hard surface. Sandblaster will blast the hard surface, and the medium that you're using, which is never sand, by the way. It's just sandblasting is a generic term. I use aluminum oxide. Some people use, there are different types of medium, but it bounces off the soft stuff and etches little tiny, dots, imperfections on the hard surface. So you can use vinyl if you're doing very simple stuff, if you want to do the weeding. And then there are masks where you get into these. They have washout films. They have no washout films, which is what I use. And basically what it does, you expose it to a UV light, like making a screen for screen printing. And it's, the one I use, I think it's negative or positive, I'm not sure. I've only ever used Iconic's Rapid Mask. I do that because I don't need a washout station. I don't need a dryer. I have a tiny shop. It is packed full of equipment. So Rapid Mask was the way to go. They sell it in a 2mm and a 4mm. I'll go into the differences between those in another video, but I can tell you now that if you're going to buy some and you're just starting out, buy the 2mm. The 4mm has a place, but 2 is what I use 90% of the time. You will need a UV light. That's an exposure unit. They sell one called an Illumilite. I'm going to show some video of that in just a second. For sandblasting, all you're going to need is a sandblasting cabinet. And I'm going to show you how I built mine. I made a whole video of just how I built my cabinet. That's all you need. Then you're going to need some kind of stencil. You can cut vinyl. That's it. If you want to go to that next level and start using masks, like if you want to start putting pictures on stone or making memorial stone, stuff like that, then you're going to need some other equipment. You're going to need a good printer that will print on the slick print. They're basically plastic, and they're translucent. You can see through them, and that's how you're going to make your negatives. So you're going to need a good printer. You're going to need an Illumilite, and you're going to need the mask, which the mask is not cheap either. But it goes a long ways, but it's not an inexpensive product. So that's what you're going to get into. In the cabinet, I would say you can build a nice sandblasting cabinet for under $1,000. The printer, probably $200 or $300. The Illumilite, I think it's a couple hundred. So it's an investment. But once you have it, you can etch anything you want. Once you have the mask set up, you can pretty much etch anything you want on anything you want. So glasses, wine glasses, stemless wine glasses, rocks glasses, memorial stones on black granite. That's the stuff that I did. So this will be the very first introduction to sand carving. Like I said, I don't do a ton of it anymore, but I am going to try to make a lot of videos on it because there are so few videos on it, and most of them are from the manufacturers. So I'm going to do some black granite ones where I put white enamel in them when I'm done. Even on glasses, I put white acrylic paint in them so that you can really see what the etching looks like. So this is the introduction video. Show you the Illumilite, show you the printer. Now, the printer, when I started, there was one printer that everybody used. It was a Epson something. I think it was, I'm almost positive it was Epson. Well, guess what? Everybody used it. And when I got into Sandcarving, they quit making it. Of course they did. I went on Facebook groups and was like, hey, what kind of printer do you recommend? Well, guess what? Every one of them used that printer. So nobody had any suggestions. I even contacted Epson and said, hey, you guys are not making this printer anymore. Which one will work? And they said, well, this is the printer that replaces that printer, but it won't do the clear plastic stuff. I got lucky, and on one of the Facebook groups, somebody gave me the Canon Prixa, and said he had been using it and it worked great. And I bought it, and it was an investment. That thing was pretty expensive. It's like a full color photo printer, but I use it in the shop. I print invoices with it, full color photo printer. I print invoices with it. I use it for my negatives. Ink Owl has the ink, so that's great. And it has a bunch of tiny little cartridges. I've been toying with the idea of just filling them all up with black, because black is all you need for those photo negatives. But I hate to do that. You know what I mean? If I want to print something color, my wife just printed some baby shower invitations on it the other day. If it was all black, that wouldn't have worked. So the ink out's cheap. It's just the cartridges are small and you have to refill them a lot. So let's get into this Sandcarving video and show you the Alumilite, show you the printer, and show you the sandblasting cabinet. And soon we'll be making some videos of actually doing some sandblasting in the process. Okay, so this is my vinyl plotter and my printer. If you're going to use basic stencils, just regular vinyl like that will work. Down here is I believe it's a Canon Pro 100 Prixa photo printer. This is the one that I use to make all my negatives, and that's what it looks like. This is the clear film. It's actually called AccuBlack, and this is actually a photo resist for a thing. If you notice, this is kind of matte on one side and then very glossy on the other side. You see the reflection there. That's the glossy side. That's the flat side. So the flat side is the side that you actually print on, and that's going to lay on top of your photo resist inside of this piece of equipment, which is the Alumilite. So you see it's just a tube. It has a cover that comes off and inside a light bulb. This is what it looks like without the cover. I'd say it's maybe 1.5 feet, 2 foot long, probably 2 feet. And you can see it just has the ultraviolet light inside there. So that's what's going to expose the film. This is the cover that goes over top. That's two pieces, the black part and the tube. Now this is me attempting to put the black piece around the tube while holding a cell phone in the other hand. I promise this is much easier than I'm making it look. So your film and your negative will go inside of there, which will let the UV light expose it, and it just clips. You see how has a little plastic piece there. It just clips around it, and that's what actually holds your film in very tight. Super easy to use, really. There's not a whole lot to it. So this is my sandblasting cabinet. This is a stock benchtop sandblasting cabinet from Tractor Supply. The modifications I made to this, so originally this is the light that comes in the cabinet. Show down that side. And what I added to the cabinet was these LED lights. So basically what they are is they're strip LED lights. Now those LED lights, I've been buying right off of Amazon, just strips. They're sticky on the back. That little back part right there, it peels off. So originally I had put the lights inside the cabinet. Well, the sand, the aluminum oxide was covering the lights all the time. So I put them on the outside of the glass. And the way I did it was just basically used little pieces of tape to hold it down on top of the glass, and then used Gorilla duct tape to just cover over all of it. Now, you're going to see a lot of Gorilla duct tape on this thing. Like I said, that's why this is the Ghetto Blaster 2000. But Gorilla duct tape is 10 times stronger than regular duct tape. And this has been on here for 2.5 years. It needs to be redone a little bit now, but it's held all the tape down. Also, the plexiglass door that came with this, and it came with those little throwaway shields, was awful. So basically I just I measured from here, this is a lip, measured from here to here and from here to here, and went to a local glass shop and got a piece of tempered glass cut that would just lay in there, and then put weather stripping, stick-on weather stripping all the way around the top. And then for the hinge, again, I used Gorilla duct tape. I actually made a strip here, a strip here, and a strip here, and then just made one big long binding. So it's a hinge. It opens and closes perfect. And then again for the handle, a little ghetto Gorilla duct tape hinge. But, I mean, it works perfect every time. You can see in the back what the lights look like. Those are the little LED lights, and you can see how they're all taped down on there. But the amount of light you get with those versus just that tube light is crazy. The vacuum system on this, I got this. This thing is called a Dust Deputy. So this is where you would normally run a shop vac or whatever. This thing is actually a 3-stage vacuum carpet cleaning machine that I just had laying around. It has so much vacuum. This is supposed to be a 5-gallon bucket, that it was crushing 5-gallon buckets. So I took a cooler and just took the top off of it, made this piece of plywood for my bucket. But basically, this would be your shop vac. But what this Dust Deputy does is it drops the dust into this bucket before it gets to your vacuum, so that your filters and your HEPA filters and everything inside your vacuum are not getting constantly clogged with dirt and sand. These things are not super cheap, but I wouldn't think of doing it without this. It's like a cyclonic. So when the vacuum is coming from here, it dumps into here. Anything that's in the air falls into this bucket, and the air goes back in the vacuum. So I very rarely ever have to dump this out. This will get full of media for sure, but about, depending on how much I use it, I have to dump this out, take all the sand out of my box, sift it, clean it, take all the filters out of my vacuum, but not that often. And this thing, I think, saves me from having to do all that. This thing is very cheap. I think like $100. The vacuum, you just have to work it out. I think this thing is like $100, but I'm not sure. When I originally built this sandblasting cabinet, I tried to use a little pancake air compressor. It was not enough air. So I went and bought this big mama at Home Depot, and now it was expensive, $400 or $500, I think. It's a 6.8 SCFM 5.1 it's 5.1 at 90 psi. It's 6.8 at 40 psi. It's 175 psi and a 1.7 horsepower. It's probably overkill, but it does fine. And other than that, it's pretty stock. I haven't changed to a pressure pot. I really haven't changed the gun. Everything else is just pretty stock, and it has served me well. I've had very little problems with it. So versus a like $10,000 or $15,000 Crystal Blast cabinet, $100, $100. Let's say you had to buy a shop vac, $300, less than $1,000, maybe less than $800 in the whole setup, in just the sandblaster. So, but it does fine. I would like to switch over to a pressure pot at some point, but now that we have the laser, we're doing less and less sandblasting and more laser engraving. But there's still some stuff, curved objects, really weird shaped objects, that I always sandblast.